the,
We're on.
I didn't open the complete schedule.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 18th, 2011 meeting of the Glendale City Council. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Here.
Quintero, Weaver,
Here.
Mayor Friedman.
Here. Tonight's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Weaver.
Please join with me in our flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for this evening's invocation, which will be delivered by Al Garcilaso, chaplain at Glendale Adventist Medical Center.
Let's pray. Dear God, we are glad to be here tonight at the City Council meeting and are grateful for the civil and religious liberties that we enjoy. Yet we come with a heavy heart as we mourn the passing of our dear friend and great public servant, Larry Zarian. He was a great asset to this community and to the state and will be sorely missed. I pray that you will be with his family, that you'll provide the peace, hope, and consolation that they need. I also pray that we tonight may honor Larry through our words and through our deeds. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Can we hear your report, please?
The agenda for the October 18, 2011 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, October 13, 2011 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item.
Next is presentations and appointments. At 3A is agenda preview for the meetings of October 25, 2011.
Spears.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, members of the City Council. Next Tuesday, there will not be a Glendale Housing Authority meeting. There will also not be a Glendale Redevelopment Agency meeting. There will, however, be a joint meeting of the Glendale City Council, Redevelopment Agency, and Housing Authority with one item. Under public hearings, this is Director of Community Development regarding proposed Glendale Triangle project to be located at 3900 San Fernando Road. There will also be another joint meeting with the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. Again, there's just one item under public hearing. It's the Director of Community Development regarding Americana brand expansion. In the evening, during the City Council meeting, there's a number of consent items. At 5B is the Director of Community Services and Parks regarding Club Maple Program and Senior Integrated Case Management Program. 5C is a General Manager GWP regarding GWP Water Distribution System. At 5D is the General Manager of GWP regarding amendments to two existing purchase orders with the Hatch Company. And at 5E is the Director of Public Works regarding design of the tenant improvements at the Community Development Building, City Hall, and Fire Station 26. And finally, at 5F is the Director of Public Works regarding Fire Station 26 and Casa Verdugo Library renovations. Moving on to action items, there's 4. At 8A and B, it's the same title, and it reads Director of Human Resources regarding amendment of contract with CalPERS for sworn public safety members to provide a second-tier retirement formula for new hires. The action under 8A is a resolution of intention, and the action under 8B will be an ordinance for introduction. Under 8C is the Director of Public Works regarding restricting the use of plastic carry-out bags and imposing a 10-cent charge on recyclable paper bags. And at 8D is the Director of Community Development regarding proposed ordinance amending Title 12 and Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, creating standards and procedures to permit pedestrian signs on the public right-of-way and on private property, allow creative signs in the Montrose Shopping Park, and adopt fees for pedestrian sign permits.
At 3B is a proclamation designating October 2011 as National Arts and Humanities Month.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, your microphone.
I'm sorry. Has that been off the whole time? No. Oh. That's right. Somebody came up and turned it off. I believe that accepting this proclamation are Stephen Lee, who's the chair of the Arts and Culture Commission, and Terry Deaver, one of the commissioners. If you'd like to come up and tell us a bit about the National Arts and Humanities Month.
Well, Council
Mayor Friedman.
Mayor Friedman, City Council, thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here tonight and to accept the proclamation. My co-member here, she will be able to give you more information about it.
Madam Mayor, members of the council. We can't talk about National Arts and Humanities Month.
Terry,
England.
I'm sorry. You just need to state your name for the record. Sorry about that.
Terry Deaver. I am an Arts and Culture Commissioner for the City of Glendale. We can't talk about National Arts and Humanities Month in Glendale without recognizing that this is a nationally sponsored event by Americans for the Arts, which is a nonprofit Washington, D.C. based organization that works on advocacy for the arts and supporting arts and cultural initiatives across the nation. As an example, we work with Americans for the Arts at the Arts and Cultural Commission on an arts and economic prosperity study, whereby we're working with arts and cultural organizations in the city to understand the economic value that they bring to our community. It's a collective time for cities across the nation to recognize the value of the arts, from beautification and entertainment, but also in our education and our economic development policies. And it's a community building tool because the arts offer a common language that can be used to bridge divides and to creatively solve problems in our community. We want to encourage our Glendale's residents to recognize the arts as part of their daily lives. It's not just an event we go to on a Saturday evening, but it's in the films that we watch, it's the books that we read, it's the papers that we read, the fashion that we wear. When we're looking at products to buy and we really admire the design that's been created by an artist and part of our creative community. And we want to recognize that arts in Glendale is superb. We've got theater and dance and music. We have galleries and art centers in this community. We have city initiatives like our public art policies, the Brand and Central Libraries, our GATE program, which is sponsored through our economic development. We have youth programs like Daly High School's Mural Project, special events and partnerships like our this weekend's collaborative event of the Expulsion event, a dance event in downtown Glendale. We want residents of the city to recognize how to participate and advocate for the arts, to find an event to attend, to write letters to the editor, talk to your neighbors and to your community leaders about the important role that arts plays in your lives. It's a time to volunteer, to donate to your local nonprofits, hold a fundraiser, volunteer for a board, participate in the Americans for the Arts program, which is a business volunteer program for the arts. And also, if you want to host an event, you can actually go to artsusa.org, which is Americans for the Arts website, and they can put that as part of their national calendar of events that are happening, and so that Glendale can be on the map with the rest of the nation in celebrating the arts in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And for all of those reasons, I am happy to proclaim the month of October 2011 as National Arts and Humanities Month. Mr. Weaver, I know you're a lover of the arts. Would you like to present this proclamation?
Artist.
And an artist.
Not only does he preach, but he practices also. Not only do you preach, but you practice what you preach. No offense, Reverend.
But congratulations. Arts are an important part of our community. Good work. Oh. Your son, yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
3C is nomination assignment for expiring term of Art Divine on the Civil Service Commission. This would be your appointee or appointment, Mayor Friedman. And also 3D is nomination assignment for the expiring term of Ara Hatamian on the Civil Service Commission. That would be Councilmember Manukian's seat.
Okay, next item.
Next item is City Council and staff comments.
Mr. Weaver?
Do you want to talk about Larry now?
I will.
One thing I had asked for months ago that I'd like to put on the council agenda as soon as possible, discussion on the, for a ballot measure on appointing city clerk and city treasurer, two separate ones. It's been done before, but they always were coupled together. A lot of communities are going to an appointed city treasurer, and I'd like to discuss that. I'd asked before. I just haven't seen it. Time's dragging.
It's on our follow-up list to come back,
Oh,
and we'll
have any
get a
idea?
date. We'll get a date back to you.
Yeah. What date? I mean, month, 2 months, 3 months. Thank you. Beyond that, I have no comments.
Okay, I have a few comments. I wanted to talk about some of the community events that I attended this week, and then I also want to talk about the passing of someone who was very near and dear to everyone in Glendale. But first, let me talk about just some of the community events. This Sunday, we had our 10th annual Unity Fest celebration. It was a very big success as far as I'm concerned. I want to thank Mario Lopez, who once again was our co-chair of the event, drawing, as usual, a huge crowd, and all of the volunteers and sponsors and the organizers who made it possible, and particularly Zizette Mullins in Management Services, who always works so hard and really brings this whole event together. I also attended the Armenian American Orphans Christmas Fund Telethon, which had to be rescheduled because they were doing their telethon a couple weeks ago for a couple hours before they realized that their telephone system wasn't working. So they had to do the telethon again. But I can tell you that when I was there, and I was there for about an hour and a half, the phones were ringing off the hook. They had about 5 phones, and they were ringing as people, despite this economic downturn, were willing to donate money to help orphans, and that's really an incredible thing. Family Promise, which is a nonprofit group on whose advisory board I sit, had their 3rd annual Cardboard Box City at Church of the Incarnation. For those of you who don't know, because Family Promise is relatively new to Glendale, this is a group that works with faith-based organizations, mostly churches and synagogues, to place homeless families with congregations. It's a wonderful group, a wonderful way to tackle homelessness, and I'm glad to see them expanding in Glendale. We had a wonderful public art performance called Expulsion that took place on Saturday. They had 2 performances on Brand Boulevard and Wilson in the empty lot. And you may even see some of the scaffolding that's still up right now. This was a free public performance that was put on in conjunction with Glendale Arts and community volunteers. Arlene Vidor in particular, who donated quite a bit of her own money to make this possible. And this was a combination performance of the Dan Bazian Dance Company and the Heidi Duckler Dance Theater. 2 wonderful groups who did an amazing performance that tied in with Unity Fest. It was about being expelled from your country or your homeland. It was very well attended, and it was really amazing to watch this performance and see people who were clearly just walking down the street or getting off the bus stop and say, "What is this?" and come in and watch this performance. It was really kind of what public art is all about. Canines in the Park and the Kiwanis Duck Splash had a wonderful joint event that I think was even more successful than usual by being together. I was told that the Kiwanians raised over $75,000 for local charities, which is really incredible. And the Canines in the Park, of course, raises money for our police canine units, who are so valuable to the police department. So congratulations to everyone who was involved with those programs. My last event was that I had a meeting with Mayor Erwin Karalian, who is from Guamaca, Philippines, and he's working with a group of Southern California Filipinos, and they would like to start a sister city here in Glendale, which is very exciting. So I just wanted to let the community know, because our policy is that our sister cities have to be generated from within the community. So they are looking for a Filipino group to partner with to become sister cities with Glendale. And given our large Filipino population, I think that this is something that would be of great interest to a lot of people in Glendale. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the passing of Larry Zarian, who was such an important figure in Glendale, an important figure in my life, someone I considered a friend and a mentor, and who both myself and my husband will miss greatly. Larry Zarian was born in 1937 and was a California resident for over 5 decades. He was first elected to the Glendale City Council in 1983 as the first Armenian American elected to this council. He served for a total of 16 years, including 4 terms as Glendale's mayor. Larry's lifelong philosophy that one should give back to one's community has earned him numerous recognitions throughout his career. His public service was recognized by such elected officials as Governor and later President Ronald Reagan, President George Bush, Governor George Deukmejian, Governor Pete Wilson, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was one of Southern California's most respected leaders and had an extensive background serving on local and national levels in the area of transportation, highways, and airports, dating over a period of 30 years. He served on the National Highway Safety Commission for 4 years, the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority for 6 years, and more recently was a member of the State of California's Transportation Commission. During his tenure on the Glendale City Council, he was instrumental in the startup of the city's own public transportation system, the Beeline buses. In addition to his efforts towards improving Glendale's public transportation system, Larry was instrumental in obtaining the funding to renovate Glendale's Transportation Center and the restoration and certification of Deukmejian Park as a wilderness area. He was also heavily involved in the construction of the Veterans Memorial that is located in front of City Hall. Larry earned countless awards and recognitions for his public service. In 2006, he was recognized by the Greater Glendale Council on Aging for his achievement in helping the advancement of senior citizens. He was also honored by the Glendale Character and Ethics Commission for his service to the community. The Glendale Chamber of Commerce paid him tribute as Patriot of the Year in 2003, and the Verdugo Boy Scouts presented him with their Citizen of the Year award, just to mention a few. At the time of his passing, Larry was one of the most popular and respected cable talk show hosts and producers in the Southern California area. He is survived by 3 sons, Vincent, Gregory, and Lawrence, a daughter-in-law, and 2 grandsons. The funeral service for Larry Zarian will be held this week. The service is for family and invited guests. The family recognizes the contributions that Larry has made to his community and how much he was respected and loved. With that, the family will have a public memorial and celebration of life that is scheduled for November 21st, 7 p.m. at the Alex Theater. That's November 21st, 7 p.m. at the Alex Theater. In lieu of flowers, donations gratefully are accepted by one of the organizations supported by Larry: the Glendale Kiwanis, Glendale Adventist Medical Center, the Armenian Society of Los Angeles, and the Self-Aid Workshop. I respectfully ask my colleagues that we adjourn tonight's meeting in the honor of Larry Zarian.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, preface, if I'm coughing, it's because I'm getting over a sore throat, and I'm going to have to cough here because if I go in the back, we go to recess. There's only 3 of us here, so I break up just so you understand, okay? I just put down some reminiscences I have of Larry, because we served together on the council back in the late 90s. There's been a lot written about Larry, so I have a few things that maybe a lot of people may not know. I consider him a good friend, and I know Glendale won't be the same with Larry gone. I never knew a man who could attend more events in one day than anybody else I ever knew. He could have hit probably 5, 6, 8 events a day. I remember the one time years before I got on council, I had the nerve to invite him to come to my family's house for a Thanksgiving Day dinner. He accepted. Boy, were we excited. I think he was the mayor then. He was going to come to Dave Weaver's house for New Year's Day. He came. About an hour later says, well, gotta go. He was on to his next one. And I bet he did that all day long. We disagreed on issues on the city council, obviously, but we always made up and we're friends. I remember times in the first years where I disagreed with him and he kept trying to convince me to his way, and I got up and says, I'm leaving. He says, you can't leave, and I said, you want to bet? And I walked out of closed session and slammed the door. I already checked with the city attorney to make sure I could legally do that, so Larry wasn't able to control me. But we've always been friends. I've been on his show, I don't know how many times. The last time was in August. Larry was never at a loss for words. And if you ever been to an event where he was the MC, he would literally introduce half the audience. Did I miss anybody? And he'd come back and introduce some more. He knew everybody. And as you may know, we go dark in December for 2 weeks. You know why? Well, when I was first on the council here, Larry bought a condo in Maui, and he wanted to spend his Christmas in Hawaii. So he got us all to agree to go dark so he could go to Hawaii. And I thank him for that very much. That's one thing we really agreed on. We spoke of our families many times, especially our grandkids. He was so happy with his grandchild. Somebody has said in the past, if we could only bypass our children and go straight to our grandchildren, it'd be great. I think Larry and I felt the same way about that sometimes. Honey, if you're watching, forget what I said here. That meaning my daughter, if she's watching. Recently, Larry and I were at a meeting with a group, and Larry was told that he had served 16 years, was mentioned, but he says Dave Weaver will term out at 18 years, to which Larry announced that he was going to run for re-election to council to top me out, and I was really looking forward to that. He was really a politician's politician. He could get things done for this city that I doubt if any other living person could, whether it was at the state level, down at the MTA, where RA is now, whatever. He just had a way about him. You couldn't stop him. I know that the good Lord will welcome Larry with open arms, and Larry will go to work solving the good Lord's problems. And miss you, Larry, and someday I'll meet up with you upstairs when I'm sure you'll have everything in order when I arrive there. So that said, he's going to really be missed.
Thank you. It has been a difficult 4 days for Glendale since Larry's passing. Many of us didn't even know that he was ill. In fact, when Brittany Levine called me from the news press on Thursday, I thought she was buying into some crazy rumor about Larry's demise. And eventually we checked it out. He was very private in these regarding his illness. And I usually am pretty strong when someone passes, but I have to admit, I usually don't cry, but this last weekend I have to say I did shed some tears for Larry. Part of it is just that I didn't, and I don't think any of us had a chance to say goodbye to him, to really tell him how much we appreciated everything he had done for this city, tirelessly working for the city of Glendale at every single opportunity. Dave knew him, worked with him while on council. Larry was the role model that Armenian mothers would point to, and they'd grab their little kids and say, see, that's what we have to aspire to be. A good Armenian, yes, but also a great civic leader. And Larry was that. And, I'll be honest, my mom did the same thing. Why can't you be like Larry, following Larry's footsteps? And I don't think anyone can follow in Larry's footsteps. You can take direction from him. He didn't have to work as hard for the city of Glendale as he did when he, upon leaving the city council. But he always was pushing Glendale, whether it was bringing the leaders of the State Transportation Commission to our humble police department community room for their monthly meeting, or hosting a reception for the Secretary of Transportation. It was always Larry doing that. And Larry felt that Glendale was overlooked in the state, overlooked for our resources, for our talent within the city, for our principles and our morals and our hard work. And he played I wouldn't be on the MTA board if it wasn't for Larry. Larry, along with Jim Starbird, and I went from city to city, basically campaigning, trying to urge the mayors of these different cities as to why they would cast their vote for this relatively newcomer, Ara Najarian. And Larry says, he had a personal relationship with each and every one of those people. They respected him to the very highest level. And he would say, Mayor Ledford from Palmdale, I'm telling you, this guy is a good guy. Okay, Larry, if anyone else told me that, I wouldn't believe him. But coming from you, your word is golden, and we're going to accept that. As a result, I got on the MTA board. Larry's efforts are still being seen today as we speak. The whole I-5 carpool project. I know the trees got cut down and all. That wasn't Larry. Larry wasn't involved with the details, but he was able to get tens of millions of dollars to create a carpool lane that extends from essentially the 134 up the I-5 all the way into Palmdale. He worked hard for our commuter rail system. He was just incredible. We all know him from his Memorial Day emceeing to all the civic groups that he would MC. It's just a tragic loss, and I feel really badly that I just wasn't able to, to get to his bedside or pull him aside and say, Larry, we really appreciate it, and I appreciate everything you've done for the city. So, Larry, rest in peace, and we'll miss you always.
Thank you, Mr. Najarian. Marty?
I'd like to say a few words about the passing of Larry as well. I first met Larry when he came to Glendale High School to speak to our high school government class. And never did I imagine at that time that not only would Larry become a friend but a mentor as well. He didn't look at people as Armenian or non-Armenian or this or that. He just looked at the content of a person's character and what they were about, and even if he disagreed with you ideologically on a political issue, because we were on opposite sides of the political aisle, he still treated you with dignity and respect, and he was a class act all the way through. Oftentimes we throw around the term respectfully disagree in the world of politics or in daily discourse, but with him, you had no choice but to respectfully disagree, because he commanded that kind of respect. And as Councilmember Najarian mentioned, he was a role model to many young Armenian Americans. If there's a reason why someone with a name like Ardashes Ardi Kasakyan is elected, it's because someone like Larry Zarian paved the way for us here in Glendale, and you'd be hard-pressed to find an individual who, even though was not born in this country, was an ardent and passionate advocate for the city of Glendale. You would not find someone who you'd be hard-pressed, rather, I should say, to find someone who was more passionate about this city. His passing came suddenly and will leave, I think, an empty hole in many of our hearts for a long time until his legacy is passed on to someone else who can help fill it and keep it alive. So he'll be missed. May his soul be illuminated.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item is consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Thank you. I have a request to pull 5D, as in dog.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. I have one card on 5D. Can you read the item into the record?
5D is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power regarding consultant for risk management services. D1 is a motion approving a service authorization with RMI Consulting for a period of 3 years at $6,000 per month for a total not to exceed amount of $237,600, including contingency.
Thank you. I have a card from William Baramian.
So I apologize, but is there another oral communication period?
This is an oral communication.
This is the one.
No. This is on that particular
Oh,
item.
no.
What did you want to speak about?
Just in
General.
General? Okay.
Sorry, well, I was told that I have to include something on that card. That's why I did.
Okay, that was a mistake. Thank
Okay.
you. We'll call
I
you back
initially
up
not, but-
a little bit later on.
I'll move 5D.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes, next item.
Now is time for oral communications. However, this is a 3-minute portion reserved for announcements, and the full 5-minute portion will be at the conclusion of city business.
Thank you. My first card is Mary Iraklian, followed by Leon Mayer.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and council members. My name is Mary Kellyan, and I am the ASB president at Hoover High School. we're holding a haunted maze at our auditorium on Glenwood Road. It will be on October 28th from 6 to 10 p.m. Tickets will be sold at $5. We would love to see community members and fellow council members there. On Facebook, we have an event called Hoover Horror High, and we would like if you were attending to click attending, and hope you can all make it. Thank you.
Thank you. Leon Mayer to be followed by Ron Farina.
Good evening, Mayor Freeman, members of the council staff. My name is Leon Mayer, and I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Glendale Library and the library itself. And I'm here to introduce our event for Wednesday, October 26th at the library at 7 o'clock. But before I go into that, which is to be very short, I also would like to remind everybody and anybody who's listening that Larry Zarian was a staunch supporter of the library. From the time he joined the city council, Cindy Clary, who is the director of the libraries, will tell you he was a constant source of strength and support to all the activities of the library. And for the last 10, 12 years, he was of assistance to me as far as my chairmanship of the Author, Artists, and Friends series. So all we can say is thank you, Larry. Now, on October 26th, we will have a gentleman by the name of Big John McCarthy. He's a former LA police officer, 22 years with the department, who has refereed 500 of these mixed martial arts bouts, which they call the Ultimate Fighting Championship bouts. And he will be at the library to talk about his book, Let's Get It On, and that was his favorite saying when he started all these 500 bouts. And the book is written by him along with Loretta Hunt, who is a famous lady sports journalist. And that'll be 7 o'clock, the 26th, that's a week from tomorrow, 7 o'clock at the library, Central Auditorium. And parking is available at the Maryland structure by the marketplace. You can get your validation for 3 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leon. Ron Farina to be followed by Paula Devine.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, City staff. About 20 years ago, the community of Glendale was hit with the College Hills fires, tragic event. In the aftermath of that fire, our local favorite weatherman, Fritz Coleman, spoke with Larry Zarian, asking what he could do, maybe do a benefit, how he could help out. Larry pointed him in the direction of the Red Cross and said, why don't you help the Red Cross since they're helping so many of the people affected by this fire. So annually, we'll get a call from Larry asking to buy a ticket, and if he could be sat somewhere close to the front, somewhere by the aisle where he could be possibly identified there by Fritz Coleman during the performance. So we'd like to dedicate the upcoming performances to Larry Zarian for bringing that event our way and always being there to support us over the last 20 years. I do have a PSA from Fritz. I think it might be available tonight.
Hello, I'm Fritz Coleman, inviting you to my comedy benefit for the Glendale Crescenta Valley chapter of the American Red Cross. It's at the Glendale Center Theater, 5:30 and 7:30 on Sunday, November 6th. 2 shows, best comedians, television in Las Vegas. Only one way to get tickets. Call 818-243-3121. Just call. It's the only way you can buy them. 818-243-3121. The wonderful comedians we have every year from Las Vegas and television. I'll see you there. It's the 20th year. Man, I am old.
Fritz does put this on every year. He does arrange for 4 or more comedians, so each one comes up and does about a 20-minute or 30-minute act. So it's a great, great performance. I hope everyone can join us there and support this major fundraiser for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Devine, and my last card is Tony Passarella.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, City Council, and staff. My name is Paula Devine, and I'm the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women, and I'm joined tonight by one of our ex officios. This is Jacqueline Alcazar. She was just appointed. She's from Holy Family. I'm here to talk about our domestic violence candlelight vigil. And Jacqueline was sharing with me when I met her here tonight that in their women's studies class at Holy Family right now, they are talking and discussing domestic violence. First, on behalf of the Commission, I would like to thank the Council for designating October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. At our last Commission meeting, Michelle Roberts, Director of the YWCA, informed us that the Domestic Violence Hotline had received 1,600 calls related to domestic violence. Detective Gaschiola reported to us that the Glendale Police Department had received 400. That's 2,000 calls in 1 year. The Commission will continue to support the Glendale Police Department with our Commission Project Rescue, or CPR grant as we call it, of $2,500, which enables them to find alternative emergency housing for victims and their families when necessary. Our Commission continues in this aspect of the cause. But we are here tonight to urge those women and men who are concerned about this issue, whether they are the lucky ones, as I call them, who are in relationships that are safe, healthy, and nonviolent, or those who are domestic violence survivors, and those who are in domestic violence relationships now. Senator Carol Liu will be there. She will join the Commission and the YWCA on Thursday evening, day after tomorrow, at 5:30 p.m. at the YWCA on Lexington across from Whole Foods for the annual Candlelight Vigil, to honor those who have survived domestic violence and to remember those who have not. Let's learn how to recognize domestic violence. Let's learn how to help those friends, family, and acquaintances who are now in relationships that involve domestic violence, whether it is mental, physical, emotional, or financial. There is help and support available. So come to the YWCA, meet Senator Carol Liu and all of her staff, the Commission, and the YWCA staff. Thursday, October 20th at 5:30, and light a candle of hope. Let's light the way to end domestic violence in our community. There is no need to RSVP, simply show up, candles will be provided. Let's make a stand against domestic violence on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devine. Tony Passarella is my last card.
Good evening. My name is Tony Passarella with GlendaleAction.com, and I'm here to invite you, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and viewing public to our forum on the dangers of smart meters. Our first speaker is going to be Cindy Sage. Cindy is the owner of Sage Associates in Montecito, California. Her specialty area of practice is in the effect of electromagnetic fields. She provides environmental monitoring, EMF site assessment, and EMF policy evaluations for electric transmission line and wireless antenna/cell tower projects. She's a co-editor of the Bio-Initiative Report and is a founder of the Bio-Initiative Working Group. Ms. Sage has published many scientific studies on electromagnetic field issues, including the science, public policy, legal, and environmental consequences of exposure to EMF/RF. Currently, she is a co-facilitator of the Collaborative of Health and the Environmental EMF Group and a full member of the Bioelectromagnetic Society. Next slide, please. Our second speaker is Orlean Cole. Orlean has been serving as the state president of Eagle Forum of California since 2002. Eagle Forum is a pro-family, pro-life, conservative organization started by Phyllis Schlafly in the 70s when she was fighting the Equal Rights Amendment. Orlean is a published author of many articles and 5 books, with the latest being Just Say No to Big Brother Smart Meter. She has been a guest speaker for conservative organizations in various states such as California, Nevada, Utah, Idaho, in Missouri. Next slide, please. So come join us and learn about
We don't allow, I'm going to ask GTV6, we do not allow politicking during this portion of oral communication, so you can make your announcement, but the next time you come, please don't bring a slide that politics, okay?
Okay. Can I finish this?
You can finish your talk, yeah.
Okay, come and learn about the dangers of smart meters now installed on your home and the risks they pose to your family. Smart Meter Public Forum is going to be held Thursday, November 10th at 7 p.m. at the Moose Lodge, 357 West Arden Avenue, Glendale, 91202.
Yes.
It's a good thing to be informed, so please join us and learn more about the dangers of the smart meter. Thank you. My name is Tony Passarella, GlendaleAction.com.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to clarify, what we don't allow is advocacy during this portion of oral communications. So you can make an announcement, but not to go to the point of trying to convince somebody about your political point. That's sort of where we draw the line. So you're welcome to, come back and announce your event again, but just let's keep that line clear, okay?
Great. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Najarian?
Mayor Friedman, thank you for taking me out of order. There's one thing I neglected to raise, and you and I did discuss the appropriateness of naming the Glendale Transportation Center in honor of former Mayor Larry Zarian. I would ask that we bring that discussion to the full council so we can all talk about whether we feel that's appropriate.
Sure. I was kind of hoping that we would make an announcement when we were a little further down the line, but absolutely I support that, and
Staff is already looking.
Staff is already looking into it, and so now the cat's out of the bag, but that's okay. I think it's a wonderful idea. It'd be a very fitting tribute. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes?
Just one quick announcement. This was sent to me by a very nice student from Clark High School who asked me to read this. She can't be here today because she's ill. Anyways, the Clark and Glendale High School Armenian clubs are organizing a very special benefit concert next week to raise money for their sister school in Gapan, Armenia. The event will take place on Tuesday, October 25th, next Tuesday, from 7 to 9 p.m. at Glendale High School Auditorium. Performances will feature professional dance ensembles, musical acts, and student talent. Admission is only $10, with 100% of the proceeds going directly to the students in Gapan. And this is a completely student-led and driven event. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope the student feels better by the time of their event. Next item, please.
Next item under action items is 8A, Director of Human Resources, regarding establishment of classification titles and compensation for employees of the City of Glendale. At A1 is a resolution establishing classification titles and compensation for GCA, including confidential hourly classifications. At 8A2 is a resolution establishing classification titles and compensation for GMA, including employee relations exempt classifications.
Mr. Doyle.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Matt Doyle, Director of Human Resources. This item is a resolution amending our classification and compensation resolutions for both our GCEA and GMA groups. What this item will do is establish 4 new classifications: the payroll specialist 1, 2, and 3, and finance administrator, all of these within our finance department. The payroll group is being established to provide a job series that's exclusively designed to deal with payroll issues and the specialization that occurs within that field. The finance administrator classification is a management classification, and it's established also within our finance department. Our first use of this classification will be to fill a vacant position heading up our finance area within GWP. This is the position that Bill Fox formerly held as an assistant general manager. This position will be part of a move to take all of the financial responsibilities in a centralized fashion and put it under the director of finance. Once again, upon your approval of these items, we will begin recruitment and proceed with filling positions utilizing these classifications. If there are any questions you have, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
No. You want a motion?
Sure.
I'll move 8A, 1 and 2.
Second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Next item, please. Thank you.
8B is Director of Libraries and of Public Works, regarding architectural services for the Central Library Improvement Project. 8B1 is a motion awarding the professional services agreement to Gruen Associates for the development of an architectural design, including architectural, landscape, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, life safety, and ADA upgrades to the structure for an amount not to exceed $988,900 and rejecting all other proposals. B2 is a resolution appropriating $988,900 to provide funds for the agreement.
Ms. Cleary.
I think Mr. Zern was going to start? No?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council. What we have before you tonight is a motion seeking your approval to enter into a contract with Gruen Associates to perform the design work for the renovation of Central Library. We've gotten to this point after going through a request for proposal and review process, first by a committee of various department representatives within the city, and then once that list was shortened down to 2 firms, Ms. Cleary and I personally negotiated the final scope, did the final interviews, and also negotiated the final cost of the project. And that's what you see here before you tonight. And as a result, we, Ms. Cleary and I, are recommending that we award that contract to Gruen Associates, a firm you may be familiar with. They're the same firm that's doing the architectural design for Brand Library. They were recently in here to give you an update on that. They're an excellent firm. We've had nothing but good luck with them at Brand, and they were very responsive in this particular for this particular project. One thing I want to mention, and I'll leave it up to Ms. Cleary to give you the details of some of the specific renovations, but the funding for this project was originally to be funded from Glendale Redevelopment Agency monies. And I won't go into details about the pending litigation. I think you're all well aware of that, although I would defer that to Mr. Garcia under any circumstance. But what we did internally was to get together and look at whether or not, and we've done this with a couple of the redevelopment agency funded projects, to look at what options we may have with moving forward on these, because they're all very vital projects. In this particular case, we all agreed that we would use undesignated fund balance from the general fund to fund the architectural design portion of it. This would get us well through the January 15th date when the Supreme Court will make their decision on the various the pieces of legislation and the lawsuit filed by CRA and the League of California Cities. At that time, there's a couple of options. Redevelopment agencies could go away. The VARP program may or may not stay, but we have a couple of options. One is if the decision is made in one particular manner, we're able to use the bond proceeds from 2010 to pay for this project. The other option for us is if all of those are abolished and redevelopment is to go away, we have a $30 million amount of money that the city is owed by the agency, and we can use the funds from that particular pool of money to fund this project as well. So again, need some more details on exactly how the litigation process moves and how that money I'd be happy to talk to it, and I'm sure Mr. Garcia would be happy to jump in there as well. But with that, I'll let Ms. Cleary give you a brief overview of what the actual renovation is going to entail.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Just a quick overview of the goals of the project. First of all, everyone knows Central Library was designed by a prominent architect, Welton, Beckett and Associates. It opened in 1973, and we've had 2 significant remodels, one in 1994 and one or 1992, and one in 2004. In 2010, we completed a vision and a conceptual plan for the library, and that was completed by Osborne Architects, and that will actually serve as a starting point for our design process. The goals of the project are fourfold. One, the project is part of a long-term city vision to leverage the library, the adult recreation center, and the Central Park to create a pedestrian-friendly civic connection to the downtown area. 2, we'd like to better define the relationship of the library with its surrounding neighborhoods, either through reorientation of our entrances, improved signage, development of exterior and landscaping design elements, all with the goal in mind of connecting with our surrounding neighborhood in a more cohesive way. Thirdly, we'll assess and upgrade as appropriate structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, life safety elements of the project. Those are pretty obvious, and provide upgrades for ADA access as needed. And finally, we want to communicate the 21st century library that Glendale is fortunate to have through design and reorganization of interior and programming spaces. I just want to briefly talk a little bit about the perspective on the need for the renovation and as it relates to library services. The library, as you know, is not the same library that we had in 1973 when we first opened. We've transitioned from a passive book-centric organization to a more active programming with our library serving as living, learning, reading, and information centers. With that in mind, I'd like to highlight a few services that have been transformed in the last 40 years. We've strengthened our focus on early childhood development and development of reading skills at an early age. While we continue to offer reference and research services, our community is no longer limited to reference librarian or perusing the book staffs. We have internet and e-resources that help us with that. We'll always be about reading and information, but we're no longer limited to the physical book. Obviously, we have e-books. We're about to embark on the cloud library. We're very fortunate to have a partnership with 3M and the Pasadena Public Library. Since 1973, there was no technology, so we are providing access to technology to people who otherwise would not have access to technology through 80 computers at our central library. We have Wi-Fi access with anyone with a laptop, and e-resources, which we subscribe to, that provide online career advice, language learning tools, homework assistance, et cetera, et cetera. We do more and more cultural and literary programming, and we've really made a concerted effort to reach out to the international community through resources and programs in multiple language. We have very popular conversation classes, and we have staff that are specialized in language services. This is something relatively new for us. And also, we are a community connection to government resources and to our community. This is particularly important for new people in our community and people that otherwise would not be connected. And visiting the library has changed in those 40 years. We're now 24/7 on the website, and we're about to launch an app for the library where you can access the catalog and e-resources, e-books, et cetera, et cetera. We're really excited about that. And I'm saying all this because in the context of the renovation, we need to reimagine our spaces in the context of these new services, relatively new services, and the new 21st century library. And for me, that's a primary, all of them are primary goals, but that is a primary goal of this project, to really envision what we are and what we will be in the future through the use of our space, and then connect to our surrounding communities and the different organizations that are in our neighborhood. I'll add to this, will definitely be a collaborative project. That will be one of my jobs, to make sure it is a collaborative project between Public Works, community planning, the Urban Design Studio, the Parks Department. Obviously, we have a relationship with the ARC, the GWP in terms of efficiencies and energy efficiencies and other kinds of efficiencies, and the Redevelopment Agency, without whom we couldn't do this project. We have in the audience is Deborah Gerard, who is the partner and principal for Gruen Associates, if you are interested. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions?
Want motions? Move 8B 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Council members Manukian, Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver.
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is oral communications. This is a 5-minute portion. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker. There will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Thank you. William Baramian, to be followed by David George Gavorhian.
Thank you, Mayor Friedman and council members and staff. This is the general one.
Yes.
Yes. First, I would like to also remember Larry Zarian. I did not know him very well at all, but I did have the good fortune to meet him last year at the banquet of the Armenian National Committee Glendale, where they honored him for his achievements. And I do appreciate having met him, and I remember seeing him on the TV when I was just in elementary school and in junior high school and in high school. And well, I don't know if he was still a member in high school, but his face was ever present, and I am sure that he will be missed. I am here to talk about something that I thought was on the agenda, but I'm not sure if it actually was, and that is the hiring process for the city manager. Word on the street is that one of the candidates for the city manager's position, George Chopjian, is no longer being considered. And the reason I came here to speak to you today was because I think you all know George, probably a lot better than I do. And you know that he is a highly qualified individual, somebody who has a long track record of doing good work in the city of Glendale, okay? And that he is currently serving as the Director of Public Parks and Recreation at the city of Long Beach, a city that is about twice the size of Glendale. So he has no shortage of accolades. And I wondered why he may no longer be in the running, so I wanted to take a look at the call for candidates or applicants that was, I believe, publicized by Roberts Consulting Group, which the city has hired to find a new city manager. And the only thing that I could see that might exclude George outright is the fact that he does not have city management experience, and that is one of the characteristics that I think was desired as a part of that application process. One thing that is required of applicants outside of Glendale, but not of applicants within the city of Glendale. And that just makes me wonder why. Why is it that there is two different standards, one for people within the city of Glendale and one for those without? And my question is why I have to wonder. Why I have to come here and ask that question. Why we cannot have a transparent process in choosing a city manager. And why citizens of Glendale have to come to the city council and ask these questions. Why do we have to come to the city of Glendale and stand before the city council and ask the city council why it can't be more transparent? That's my question. And as a native Glendalian, and something that I want to mention just in case it makes any difference to anybody, I think that that question needs to be answered. We should not have to come here and ask the city council to be more transparent, to be more forthcoming with its citizens, the citizens that elected these officials. The citizens who expect those elected officials to represent them transparently, who are indeed beholden to the interests of the citizenry of the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David George Gavorkian, followed by Anahi Benajian.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff. My name is David George Gavorkian. I'm a 14-year resident of the city of Glendale. I'm a proud product of our Glendale Unified School District. I serve my community on a number of committees. I've had the honor of working with the late and great Larry Zarian on the Patriotism Committee. I am also on the Bond Oversight Committee with the Glendale Unified School District. I try to uphold the profession of city management in a very high regard, and I serve on the Cal ICMA Professional Development Committee for City Management. And I'm a local government consultant, and I'm a business owner. Today I'd like to speak to you independent of my involvement with any organization, with any group, or in any committee. I come to speak to you as a resident of Glendale. The reason why I speak to you today is because I would like to make a recommendation, a suggestion for collaboration with the recruitment process of the city manager. My point will focus on the revered conduct of honoring the public trust. Honoring the public trust is a component of integrity that goes beyond that is required by law or by charter. I know that you are facing a very difficult situation. I know that it is very difficult to make the selection. It's a recruitment process. It's very significant. But it should not be viewed upon as a situation. It should be viewed upon as an event, something worth celebrating, that we are saying farewell to our good and respectable city manager, and we are selecting a new civic leader for our community. And that is an event that needs to be celebrated. And that is an event that should include and engage and involve the community in the selection process. When it comes to annual budgets, when it comes to strategic plans and parks and recreation, when it comes to red carpet social events, the community is engaged, the community is invited. But when it comes to making the most important and significant decision for an entire community that will take place far beyond your time in office, I think it is very significant to include the entire community in the selection process after the consulting company or the Human Resources Department has compiled their list of qualified candidates. My question is that, why have we not engaged the community? What kind of an example will this set, and what kind of a new trend will this establish with our new and next city manager? If the city council is bypassing its own constituents, what impression will this leave, and what will it allow, or what kind of an approach will the next city manager take if this is what the city council is doing for its residents? California law recognizes that the city manager is head of emergency services. And the people of Glendale, I believe, recognize that it is important to have a leader with strong community relation skills. Now, emergency preparedness and community relation skills are two very significant qualities that have been omitted from the grade sheet that the City Council will use to appraise the selection of candidates. My recommendation is to make the recruitment process more open and competitive, and to engage the community, and to make sure that the community has a say in what their priorities are for their next leader as a city manager. It is a very crucial moment for the city of Glendale. It is very critical. And I believe that the community's engagement and the community's involvement with the recruitment process of their next leader will not only benefit the community itself, but it will also help alleviate the administrative and political burden that you have upon yourselves to make this significant selection. I have faith in each and every one of you, and I strongly believe that the decision you make and the approach that you give will benefit the city, its residents, and the community for generations to come. And I have faith that you will uphold the honor of public trust. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anahi Panegian, followed by Leonard Manukian.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Bora Friedman.
You lower the microphone.
Yes, thank you. Council members and staff and the audience. Today I'm here to speak about Larry Zarian as a mayor. He was a beloved father and grandfather who was energetic and active throughout his 73 years of life. He was a role model, and everybody from you, each of you remembering him and mentioning about his activity and a public servant, good for the community. He was a man of a leadership attributes. In many events, as a master orator for different ceremony, follow his years from entry into United States, 16 years of public service to the Glendale City as a mayor and council member, and reached our community with his exceptional leadership and also his TV show, talk show. We always remember him as with his happy face. We will miss him, and also his legacy remind us always, let rest in peace. I remember one joke when first time Armenian sailboat, first time when docked in San Pedro Harbor, 2009, and in the farewell party, we organized our family together, and I invited him, and it was also Nigerian family together. I remember at that event, when I addressed my greeting to the audience, to the guest, he was very attentively listening to me and said, Anahid, I didn't know that you have a good command of Armenian language. And his joke was to me addressing, do you familiar to Larry Zarian's Armenian language? Because he had a special accent in Armenian language, which is Iranian accent with mixed with Western Armenian. That's it. We always pray for him and let the God rest him in peace in the heaven. I have with that photo with him and many other events, we were together, and also Nigerian family, which is recently the last event, which I wrote article, he advised me to write in Armenian language, this last Memorial Day event, which is held in City Hall. This is the photo I put in my article, and different also photos you can see we together. Thank you very much. We remember him always.
Thank you. That was lovely. Leonard Manukian, followed by Shane Gregory.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, I'm Leonard Manukian, and I'm a Glendale resident. A few months ago, I appeared before you and asked you that you cast the widest net practical in your attempt to recruit the next city manager. I was greatly pleased when you did so, and you retained a headhunting firm to recruit the next city manager. However, I was disappointed when I found out that per your approval, this firm had decided to apply two sets of standards to the candidates for this job. Those who are outside city employment at the current time would have a different requirement, a more rigorous requirement than those who are currently employed by the city. Now, I can't see any rational reason to do that. I'm sure that upon evaluation and re-examination, you will find that there's nothing wrong with applying the same standards to all applicants across the board. Now, that may increase the number of applicants who will ultimately be interviewed by you, but I don't suspect it would be so much more work that would militate against you revising the requirements and, in fact, widening the pool of candidates. I hope and I ask that you do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manukian. Shane Gregory, followed by Margaret Hammond.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I am here tonight to continue to voice my grave concerns about smart meters, both in Glendale and in Burbank.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Shane Gregory, I'm sorry. Last week, a member of the public made an interesting point when he said that people who experience negative physical effects from smart meters should also be concerned about and affected by the Wi-Fi and other electromagnetic fields such as those that are present in this room, and in Wi-Fi hot zones such as those found at Starbucks and Panera. My reply to him is that we most certainly are. This is a very significant point that he brought up, and it is a cornerstone of my opposition to smart meters. I am made very ill by the smart meters recently installed in my home, so ill in fact that I have found it necessary to abandon my home of 23 years because I am unable to tolerate the headaches, nausea, heart palpitations, insomnia, and feelings of extreme irritability. Unlike the RF exposure I encounter at Starbucks or in this room, for example, I am not a choice when it comes to the toxic devices that appeared suddenly and without my knowledge on my home. I can choose whether or not to frequent a Wi-Fi hot zone. I can make choices about how long I stay in such an environment. I cannot, however, make these same choices in my own home. Even if I were to turn the power off, I am still exposed to thousands of pulses of non-thermal, non-ionizing radiation each and every day in a place that should be sacrosanct, should be safe, should be private, and should be a place where I am able to exercise my constitutional rights. The deployment of smart meters and the irritant that issues from them is depriving me and everybody else of our fundamental rights. Mr. Weissman also said that a Wikipedia article that he read denies the existence of a condition known as electrohypersensitivity, something that is suspected to be responsible for my and other people's physical reactions to Wi-Fi, decked cordless telephones, and to smart meters. Rather than rely upon a Wikipedia stub, I prefer to get my information from medical journals. I will be handing Council a summary of over 40 medical studies and 4 journal articles that have found changes in neurobiological markers, immune function, emotional behavior, memory, cancer rates, calcium metabolism in heart cells, heart rate, and heart variability in both human and animal studies as a result of exposure to radio frequency. It is interesting to note that in 2007, Germany's environmental ministry issued a warning to German citizens to avoid wireless technology when possible and return to cable means of communication. The French National Library banned Wi-Fi in libraries when librarians became ill. And the European Environmental Agency called for action to reduce public exposure to radiation from mobile phones, Wi-Fi, WiMAX, and other antennas. In Canada, schools have removed Wi-Fi routers from schoolrooms due to the high incidence of cardiac events in small school children. I realize, of course, that some people will not accept the evidence that this type of a technology that is inherent in smart meters is damaging to human health and very probably to other species. For some, there are financial rewards at stake. It does not serve them to either study or publish the truth. This, I believe, is what took place when the corporations that are profiting enormously from the rollout of smart meters and the utilities, whose rate structures may very well generate greater profits, commissioned studies that stated that the smart grids technology is safe. This is reminiscent of another tragic chapter in our history. The tobacco industry enjoyed decades of huge profits, sometimes gaining government support in the process, while countless numbers of people sickened and died. I think we need our representatives to look far more closely at the situation. Listen well to those of us who are the canaries in the coal mine as we tell of our experience, and engage in some thoroughgoing investigation. It is incumbent upon you to do so. It is your duty to those you serve, and more importantly, it is your moral and ethical responsibility as human beings. Please be our guardians and our advocates, and remember that it should always, always, always be about people over profits. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views.
Thank you. Margaret Hammond, to be followed by Zanko Armenian.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. I'm a 50-year resident of Glendale. I want to say that regarding George Chapton's eligibility to be city manager, I strongly agree with the statements of the two gentlemen who spoke in the way that the choosing of a city manager is not fair. I absolutely believe that. To have one set of rules for one lot and another set is not right at all. And I had George, over the years that he was Parks and Rec, I had many contacts with him, as did many of my friends that were involved in different groups in Glendale, and always found him to be very helpful and always had the best interest of the city at heart. Now, he efficiently headed the Parks and Rec for many years, And I know that many of my fellow citizens and friends feel the same way that I do, and the same way that those two gentlemen presented the arguments. His position right now, I have to laugh at you questioning him, is really tremendous. He is in charge, as far as I can remember when I spoke to him, of the Port of Los Angeles in a huge area that he is responsible for in his present position. He is well suited for the job of city manager, in my opinion. And I hope that some of you citizens out there will get off your duffs and stand up for this. Anyway, that's my feeling. And regarding Larry Zarian, he was really a South Glendale man in the beginning. And for one thing, I remember when there was the threat of removing the historic light posts at 7 o'clock in the morning, I tried to stop the utility, not they were private electrician, from removing the historic lampposts, and he wouldn't listen to me, really, even when we had a pregnant woman tie herself to the lamppost. But I called Larry Zarian, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he turned up, the only time I ever saw him, without a tie and unshaven, and stopped the whole thing, and then proceeded from there to look into the matter of these historic lampposts being removed. So, and other things that he did in the city, pavements down in our area were very bad, so forth, and he always stood up for our area to get special treatment when we needed it. Not special, but equal treatment, should I say. And so I must say, I will miss him. There were times that he and I had sparred about things that I'd say, Larry, you know, I'm blah, blah, blah. And he'd always say, oh, Margaret, it's okay. We'll get along anyway. Now, the other thing that I do want to speak about is the red light camera. I've asked and asked about it, the contract. How much does it cost yearly? How much profit do we get from it? And how many years is our contract? Many cities in the Los Angeles area, per the LA Times, not me, LA Times, have canceled their contracts due to increased accidents and lack of enforcement. To get they can't enforce the rules to offset the cost of it. So there we are. The other thing is, speaking about Larry, I would like to see the pictures of the mayors put up, including Larry's. He gave many, many years among the other gentlemen who have served as mayors and so forth in the city, two of which sit right now on the dais, and would like to see them back. You keep telling me, yes, you will, yes, you will. Where are they? And also the beautiful ceramic tile or ceramic seal that was done in color. I know it's in the back room. What good does that do us citizens? We can't see it back there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zanku Armenian to be followed by Avery Baramian.
Madam Mayor, my name is and elected leaders and staff. My name is Zanku Armenian, resident of Glendale. I'd like to speak to you about a topic that has been addressed already this evening, but something around which I wrote one of my Glendale News Press columns on, which is about the selection process for the city manager. After I wrote that column and after I think others commented, I appreciate the fact that the City Council decided to conduct an actual search process for this important position so that we can ensure that we get the best possible candidate for Glendale. However, what I'm disappointed in so far is one of the additional things that I had written in my column was the fact that not only should there be a search process, but the community, stakeholders in the community should be engaged in that process to determine what are the qualities that we need to see in the next city manager. And the reason for that is because this position does not turn over that often. It is critical to the management of our city, and we are all stakeholders in this decision. Although the decision is yours as elected leaders, we are all, in a way, bound by that decision, good or bad. Mr. Starbird has made tremendous contributions to the city. He will leave very big shoes to fill. In order to find that right person, I think we need a search process that is more comprehensive than what I am so far seeing happen. I hope what I will hear in the end is that that search process involved dozens of candidates. I know your time is pressed on many urgent matters, but this matter is right up there with some of the most urgent, pressing needs of the city. This position, filling this position, deserves the time to interview every possible qualified candidate in the process, whether they be internal candidates or external candidates. With this sort of down economy, there's one upside to it, which is there should be a lot of people that are available, a lot of qualified people that are out there that probably will want this job if we conduct the search process properly, which means we should get the best possible candidate for the job. I have no preference when it comes to whether the best candidate is an internal candidate or an external candidate. It could be that at the end of this process, the City Council will decide for whatever set of standard criteria that the internal candidate, one of the internal candidates trumps all the rest, and you decide that internal candidate. But for that internal candidate to be successful, for that internal candidate to be set up for success in this position, we need to make sure that they withstood the test of the external market and what the external market can also bring to the table. Otherwise, I fear it will taint and undermine the success of an internal candidate if that is the ultimate decision. Some of the candidates, from what I understand, are in this room, and I have tremendous respect for our staff, and I have tremendous respect for their experience, and I would imagine that they are very, very competitive when it comes to meeting the needs and the qualifications for this position. But that should not be at the exclusion of also casting the net as far and wide as possible, going above board and bringing in every possible candidate that we think would be qualified. Now, part of that process is the job of the recruiting firm, obviously, to narrow the pool. But it should not be narrowed so finely that you as elected leaders, and since you are ultimately accountable for this decision, that you do not get a chance to at least interview people and come to your own conclusions and comparisons between the different candidates, both internally and externally. I expect the finest from our city as a citizen. I want the best for our city, for all our citizens. I think the way to achieve it is through a balanced and fair process and a very transparent process on this particular decision. We can't have the public deciding everything with you, otherwise we'd never get anything done. That's what you were elected to do. However, I consider the city manager position to be on par with an elected leader's position when it comes to the impact of that impact of filling that position and the impact felt by citizens. Because at the end of the day, that's the CEO of the city. Even though we have a mayor, the day-to-day operations are really run by the city manager, and we need to make sure that that city manager candidate that we select ultimately understands the nature of our community, understands the specifics of our community to do their job well. I hope you will reconsider and cast the net as wide as possible in that. Thank you very much for allowing me this time.
Thank you. Avery Baramian, and then Sharon Weissman's my last card.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Avery Baramian. Longtime Glendale resident. I don't know if you're supposed to get bonus points for that, but 30 years plus. I'm here also to voice my objection, displeasure at the selection process for the city manager position. Apparently, there are two thresholds, one lower one for the internal applicants and one higher one. On the face of it, obviously, it's patently unfair. It's just, I can say it's un-American. Why give somebody a lower threshold or a barrier to go over? We're not getting a discount with the internal applicants. We're paying the same salary, we, the city of Glendale taxpayers, so why should we not take all the applicants? Why not have a level playing field? George Chapchin has worked for the city. He's no longer an employee, but he ran the department well. As far as I know, there are no black marks. He's well-spoken, he has the experience, he has the educational background. Why should he not be considered on an equal playing level field with everybody else? I would request the City Council to open up the process and perhaps tonight explain to us why should there be two levels, two thresholds for two different sets of applicants. What's the reason? Is there any good reason? Certainly it's not a financial reason. We're going to pay the same salary. And I think, the well has been poisoned. We need to open up the process, reset, explain to us your bosses. Why is it that we have two sets of criteria? One for the internal, one for the external. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon Weissman's my last card.
Thank you, Mayor Friedman, council members, staff, and those listening. I'm Sharon Weissman from Far North Glendale, and I'm here this evening to announce that Glendale Human Relations Coalition has received our 501c3 status. We are a bona fide tax-exempt organization, and those not familiar with the organization, I'd like to make you aware, because we're going to be recruiting everyone in Glendale to help us. The mission statement, as adopted when it was originally starting to form back in 2001, is the Glendale Human Relations Coalition understands, appreciates, and respects the value of our city's diversity. Together we work vigorously to promote community harmony, provide a united response to hate crimes, and speak out against prejudice and discrimination. A little history of the organization. A Blue Ribbon Committee was formed in June of 1994 by then-Mayor Eileen Givens in response to graffiti on the side of the Armenian Boy Scouts building in Glendale. The mayor asked the committee to develop guidelines for the police to utilize in response to hate crimes. The Glendale Human Relations Coalition evolved from that committee over a period of time. Several councilpersons and mayors have served as members and chairs of the GHRC. The GHRC worked with local government, police, schools, community members, organizations, and churches to educate and promote the value of community diversity in the 2000 to 2003 timeframe. Although successful events were held, tax-exempt status was not finalized and the group became inactive. In 2010, members of Glendale Education Social Justice Advocates began concerned about an increase in incidents of violence between ethnic groups in Glendale, particularly involving young people. Believing the lack of appropriate opportunities for youth in Glendale made our young people vulnerable to inappropriate influences, we began exploring how we could provide more positive activities. It became apparent fundraising would be necessary, and we partnered with former Glendale Human Relations Coalition officers and board members to revive the organization as an umbrella group to not only respond to hate crimes, but to sponsor projects to reduce tension among Glendale residents. And in fact, Marilyn Gunnell, the president of the GHRC, when it stopped being active, had been in recent contact with Larry Zarian, and who was also a former active member of this organization, and we were looking forward to his help with reviving this organization. And although I am an atheist, I have to admit it's an interesting coincidence that our 501c3 status was approved 4 days after Larry left this earth. So I ask all of you involved if you want to honor Larry by thinking about getting involved with us with this organization. We're looking for a lot of help in terms of volunteers. We can now offer tax-exempt status if you want to donate some money, facilities, ideas, and please stand by for the next couple of weeks. We're going to be forming task forces to get going and reactivating some of the activities so we can help reduce tension around Glendale. And thank you very much for your attention tonight.
Thank you. That was my last card. Are there any comments from City Council?
I have a question for the City Attorney. We have a special closed session on Friday, correct? Has that been noticed yet? Public?
Councilman Najarian, it has not been noticed. The notice will go out tomorrow.
Okay.
for the closed session, for the special meeting.
Well, I think it may be appropriate to mention that we will be taking closed session comments here in these chambers at 8 a.m.
That's correct.
And then we, as a council, will retire to closed session at an undisclosed location.
That's correct. Well, and I would add that...
A secret location.
Well, it will be disclosed on the agenda as well.
Since several members of the public asked questions about our process, and we discussed our process in closed session, how much of that could I divulge?
Essentially, without the consent of the majority of the council, cannot disclose any information, confidential information that was disclosed or gleaned from closed session. So, other than the discussion of the decision to hire Mr. Roberts to conduct our search, I really can't disclose anything until such time as the majority of the council agrees to do that.
There'll be plenty of time later on.
Okay. That's that. We have a motion to adjourn?
Move in the memory of Larry Zarian.
We are adjourned.